Hello and welcome to the Bread of Life channel. Today I'm going to be responding to Christian objections to being transgender. Now, for transgender viewers, there are many churches, Christian churches, who totally are embracing and affirming of transgender people. So if you've ever got the feeling that you would not be welcome in a Christian church, please do look up LGBTQ affirming Christian churches. You'll find that there are Baptists and Lutherans and Methodists and Presbyterians and even Catholic groups that are welcoming and affirming of transgender people. So by no means do all Christians think alike on this issue. But in this video, I really want to take the time to respond to Christians who do object to affirming transgender people and just kind of talk through what some of the issues are that Christians bring up and really just show you how this is not a complicated issue and that there really isn't anything in the Bible that would cause us to be reluctant to affirm a transgender person. Then oh my goodness, I am so glad. Hello, Bree, glad you could join us.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, I just wrapped up my show and I saw you were streaming this. And I'm like, oh goodness, I better
Great.
go in there and see
Perfect.
what's going on. Hi,
Perfect.
B.S. Lewis.
Okay, so actually, let's let Bree answer this one because the objection being posed is, why should we trust people's testimony about themselves? Like if someone is testifying, I'm a woman, but they have, genitalia that is male, why should we trust their testimony about themselves when we don't take people seriously who, are in other situations, like a guy claiming to be Jesus in Australia?
Well, it's about a level of credulity, right? And also, this is a kind of a inversion of what they call the one joke or whatever, about identity. If you can identify as a different gender than the one you were assigned with at birth, you can identify as anything. That's not really how that works, because that gender is a certain type of role that you fulfill in your society, right? So it's the way you're perceived, it's the way you act. There's a lot of facets to what your gender is, and none of those would be the attack helicopter that we always hear about, right? None of those are going to be that's not going to be on the chart. And it's the same thing with Aussie Jesus, right? That's the identifying as a religious figure is not a gender, right? That's not part of your identity. People can have certainly there are mental illnesses associated with identity in general, and not to say, and definitely wouldn't want to discredit anybody who's suffering with that, but generally it would be like with someone like Aussie Jesus. I think it's just a troll. It's just someone being. Did I scare the other guy away?
I don't know.
Oh no, but please go on.
Yes, it doesn't. Oh no, he said he needs to go.
Oh,
So
okay. I was real because I listened to him last time that you talked about LGBTQ issues, right? He was in here with your Pride stream that you did a little while ago.
Yeah.
And I wanted to engage with him, but that's okay. Maybe next time. Yeah.
Well,
anyway,
maybe he'll watch. So, what was your thought? What did you want to share with him? Because maybe he'll watch it later.
Oh, I wanted to ask questions about because there's this. Should we be kind to them? What does it mean? What should we do? We should legislate. We should make sure that you vote and that you're letting people know that you're accepting of trans people. And you don't have to. Here's the secret, right? And you don't have to internally accept anything. You want to say, oh, this person was male, and that's how I feel inside. That's fine. You feel that way. You can't control how you feel. or what you believe. That's why belief is that way. But you can't control how you act and what you do. So regardless of what you believe and how you feel, is if you treat a trans person with decency, and you try to be helpful and do what's in the best interest of that minority group, as far as things like their health care goes, their education, their access to public spaces. As long as you're aware of that and you try to do your best to advocate for that, whether that's, with your vote, or, in your social life, when you hear somebody saying something about trans people, you just want to say, I've met trans people and they're just normal people. They're just
exactly nice people. Bree, I'm sorry, but may I ask you to clarify something? It will be, I mean, it's so easy for you to debunk something that Rebecca was talking about. I believe it's a misconception that lots of people regret transitioning. My feeling is it's such a difficult process to be allowed to transition, to medically get the support to do that. Could you tell us your experience? Do you really believe it's a thing that people regret transition? Because I don't feel like it's that likely. Go ahead.
There's a very small portion of people. I don't want to discredit anybody who's dealt with the gender dysphoria and transition to try to combat that, and it did not work, or it had inverse reactions. And when you're talking about behavioral health care, and I don't know where everybody stands on that, but when it comes to behavioral health care, how you react to a specific treatment sometimes can be way off the charts. That's why every service you receive, you have to sign off on it. Every medication you're prescribed has a mile-long list of side effects and possible things that could happen as a result of the medical service that was received, whether that's hormones or like a surgery or something like that. So there's lots of disclaimers, but it's no more common of a regret rate than any other behavioral health service, as far as taking steps to augment your body to feel more confident. Like gender affirming surgeries, for instance, have a lower regret rate than say something like a rhinoplasty, right? A lot of people get nose jobs with a higher regret rate. So,
yeah, good example.
Now, the fact that people do, I do think that there are people that do. I think there's a very small number of them, and I think that's why when you look at detransition stories that people tell, it's the same handful of people, because there's only a handful of people. But if you think about what a small portion of the population we're less than 1%, and then the regret rate is less than 1%. So less than 1% of less than 1%.
Yeah.
There's only going to be X amount of people. I don't have a number on it right now, but we do have in TransPositions, we have all the numbers and research and statistics and everything on that. So come check it out. But the regret rate is lower. I lost my train of thought when I went to plug my channel again. It's just there's a lot of we have a resource library of the TransPositions that's just we got over like we're getting close to 40 peer-reviewed articles. So it's really growing. Anyway, they say they'll have the same few dozen people, because that's really all the numbers that the detransitioners are going to amount to overall.
Okay, I'm sorry, but what I understand what you're saying, but I would like to how do you say that? To strengthen the point that what I feel like is regardless of the regret percentage, what I feel like is the majority of the people that I know that transition are so happy, feel so much joy with themselves to express themselves. And I live in Germany, so it's cooler here. It's a good place to be if you're transgender, because nobody cares and everybody goes along with it and kind of finds it
Yeah.
great to be amongst trans people. That's a good thing about my country. But that's I just want to strengthen the point that the majority of the people that transition are very happy with the fact that they transition, aren't they? Isn't that the fact? That's
Yeah,
my
that's
feeling.
what that's what the evidence shows. That's what all the research shows. There's been a few studies that, and again, we have it all, that people have tried to twist around to say that the happiness is not at the end of it. The uh, is
Yeah.
not there. And again, as with any kind of medical treatment, there are going to be people that that it doesn't work for whichever reasons that apply to them. And
Hmm.
if you want to, I can go ahead and address what Antonio's asking here.
I told him I'll get to it in a minute because I want to jump in and say something here,
Mhm.
because this is a real objection that this is the objection that I most understand when Christians make, because it's one that comes out of concern for people. And it's that, there seems to be a great rise in the number of transgender people, or people who are coming out as transgender, but it's not happening in all age groups. So it's not like necessarily a matter of, okay, now people are more open and able, but it
Hmm.
seems to be it's more young people. So people are concerned that, hey, it's something we're leading children to psychologically. We're confusing them. We're making them think that, hey, if you're depressed, maybe it's because you're transgender. And then we're leading them on a path. And, like you said, you can see, um, you know, young people online who have said, that's the way I got led, but I'm not really transgender. I was confused. I was depressed, but my medical treatment would just guided me down the path of transition, and now I'm sterile. So there is a lot of concern about that, and I understand that because I'm concerned about that. But I would like to know, Bree, what would you say to people who are concerned about that?
Right. So, like when you're working in the healthcare industry and you're dealing with behavioral health things like this, you're going to there's going to be a lot of steps building up towards getting that transition. The narrative that you just go in and say, hey, give me hormones, and they'll just hand them over to you, does not play out in any jurisdictions in the U.S. that I'm aware of. The situation that you're going to find yourself in is most people, in order for whatever kind of service coverage that they have, they're going to be required to have certain prerequisites before they will receive any kind of treatment. And usually those are including a psychological evaluation, right? So can a person go into a psychiatrist and say all the right things to get put on hormones to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria, or and be subject to transition? Yes, that can happen. But someone can also go into the doctor's office and explain all their symptoms for lycanthropy and fake being afflicted with werewolfism, and get all the treatments that someone with werewolfism would get if they, because their lycanthropy is a real diagnosis. It has a diagnosis code. It's a real treatment, and there's a treatment plan
Okay.
for it, right? So in the same way that you can fake having any other behavioral health condition, or for whatever reason think that you actually do have that condition when you don't, you can apply that to any other similar service that you could fake. And I like to use lycanthropy because it's an actual condition. There's a treatment plan. There's medications that are prescribed for it. You can go through all the steps to be treated for lycanthropy, but then you can't. After you go through that and you get all the evaluations, you don't get to then at the end of it all go back and say, well, I told my doctor that I had all these symptoms of lycanthropy, and they told me I had lycanthropy and gave me lycanthropy treatments. But you know what? Now that I've reflected on it a bit, I don't think I'm actually a werewolf. Those doctors lied to me. That's not how that's going to work, right? It's the same. It's
Yeah.
the same situations there. So
And I guess my response to Christians that are feeling concerned about that is this: if you stop treating trans people like this is a sin, and you start
listening to people's testimony and loving them as they are, then you can be a better supportive community for whatever they choose. If they're having gender dysphoria and they have to hide that in their Christian community, then what are the chances of them getting good help? You're not there praying for them. You're not there coming around them and saying, hey, you know what, whatever is best for you, that's what we want. And so you're treating something as a sin, which has nothing to do with sin, right? Like you're treating something as shameful, which is something that is just a condition that people need to talk about. Like it's they're having trouble wrestling through their identity or expressing their identity, but we're treating it as if this is something they're doing wrong. And so that is what is really problematic.
Right. And that's, I mean, and I think that's a lot of the problem is that that's the treatment plan for someone dealing with gender dysphoria. I mentioned the treatment plan for lichen planus, but there's treatment plans for dysphoria too. So part of the treatment plan is the medical base, or the evidence-based medicine around gender affirming care says the best recourse is to transition and live your life as that identity that you feel most comfortable with. That's the treatment plan. And a lot of people are saying, no, there has to be another treatment plan where you force that person to live their life as the other gender or as another gender. And you say, oh no, you have to shoehorn yourself into this life because of these biological factors. And that causes more harm than good. It's because something they call conversion therapy, which it's just been shown to not work. It's not practiced by any medical organizations anymore. As far as it was really prominent again for trying to convert specifically homosexual women, because there was back then, I want to say it was the late 50s, there was the same type of like they're doing with the young girls now. Like all the girls are now identifying as trans men. The same kind of scare went on in the late 50s with all the young girls are turned into lesbians, and the conversion therapy was a treatment plan to try to pull them out of that. There's been a few different doctors that were documented on that, but a lot of that you'll see their work cited by people making arguments against transition, as if that's part of the process that we're going through now, when it's kind of the opposite, really. So
Yeah. Now let's get to Antonio's question. He said, all trans should be accepted, but I think the problem is specifically about the question if they are a male or a female, which is why people actually care about them in sports. Okay. So did you want to respond to this?
Yeah. So yes, I'm transgender, I'm transsexual too, which means there's parts of my anatomy and parts of my physiology that are male and parts that are female, and that's due to my endocrine system, because I take different hormones and hormone blockers as well. Maybe there will be able to put like artificial wombs and things in, and we will be there. That'll be awesome. But for right now, I can change my endocrine system, my hormone levels, the way that my body develops. I can change all of that to make myself match up with essentially what is a cis woman, right? So will I ever be a cis woman? No. That's why I'm a trans woman. That's why I will always have I'll always be trans, but I'll always have trans parts. Again, maybe someday they will be able to fix that. Not today though. So today I just exist as Bree, which is a woman that's got female endocrine system, got female anatomy, but I have that one system, that reproductive system that's still hung up there. And a lot of people cling to that as to say, and this is what identifies you as a male or female is your gametes or gonads, when we all know that it's multifaceted. And you decide someone that you see in public as male or female, you aren't looking at their gametes or their gonads. They're looking at their gender presentation. So female-based treatment. Yeah, gynecology and stuff like that is what I meant by female-based treatments. Or male-based treatments would be like getting your prostate checked and things like that. So, but if I did go and get what they call a bottom surgery, there would be gynecological services that I would have to get from a doctor who specializes in treating females, and it would preferably be one who specializes in treating post-op trans females.
Mm-hmm.
But the bigger question is, why does it matter? Except for sports. Okay, let's put sports aside for just a minute. Why is it necessary to categorize someone as male or female? Okay, it's something that we have done in society. Okay, it's on all the job applications. Are you male or female? But why does it need to be? Why is it important to have a binary that has to be adhered to? I don't see why that's important. It's fine if I am a woman and I have no problem being a woman, and if somebody calls me a man, I'm not going to like that, right? But is there a reason that everybody in society has to be male or female? I mean, that's my pushback on this comment. And with regard to sports, I just want to say, I actually do think there is a problem with trans women participating in sports as we have it right now, because the effect of the testosterone does give them an advantage over, females who were born that way. But maybe our whole sports system needs to change. Maybe we
So
should do this not based on gender, but on body mass, bone density. On maybe we should have the categories as something besides male and female, and have it more equitable, just according to other characteristics. Why does it have to be male and female?
cis women are amazing physically, and I think that there's that a lot of transphobia is just rooted in the notion that cis women are physically inferior, and I don't see that in reality that I live in. There's things that cis women trend towards excelling at over cis men, and I just don't think that that's a fair assessment of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's put up B.S. Lewis's comment, because he says, I don't think the Bible has much to say on sports, Jamie, but it does say a lot in terms of gender roles. B.S., I don't think it's as strong on gender roles as you're trying to make it, although there are a lot of conservative Christians who are very, have very strong opinions about this. The Bible was written in a time that is very different than our time. And we cannot take and assume that the things that were the ways of life that were lived out at that time are exactly God's ideal and what he wants for our time. And we see throughout the Bible that God, there's changes to what God expects from humanity. So, it is true that at one time women did not have the same opportunities that they have today, but that doesn't mean that that's what God wants. So anyway, yeah, but I don't even see how does that relate to transgender? Is it the point is that it's confusing how people should be living according to a certain role. But anyway, I'll let you guys say anything you want about that.
Well, I just want to say that there is the advantage in sports is a myth. I see that popping up in here. That's not what evidence shows. I know Rebecca believes that's what the evidence shows, but it's really not. And we have, again, tons of resources available to show that trans women compete usually struggle to perform against cis women. I'm just and as far as the bathroom thing goes, if a woman was scared to go into the bathroom because there was a black woman in there, would you think that that'd be a reason for there to be a separation between white and black restrooms. Just to clarify, like, because if I go into a bathroom, right, I'm in there to pee. If that scares you, if you're first of all, if you're scared that something's going to happen to you because because you think I'm a man pretending to be a woman, then that's again your fear of cis men, not trans women. But as far as what we got going on, how would you even know? I've spent my time in both bathrooms of both sexes, and I've never seen anybody's genitals. It's just never happened.
Yes, and actually in the state where I live in Utah, they just passed a law about you have to use the bathroom that's on your birth certificate.
Wow.
And it's just, it's exactly what you said, Bree. Look, there are perverts in the world, okay? But why should we be, if we're afraid of perverts, why should we ascribe that to transgender people, right? They just want a place to be able to go to the bathroom. Like, it's not.
Ban public bathrooms.
I cannot walk into a men's room. I will scare everybody out of there if I walk into a men's room. I'm just saying. If I walk into a public bathroom full of men, I'm going to get a lot more looks than if I walk into the ladies' room and just do my business and go and wash my hands and leave. Right?
Right. Yes. And it's really, it makes a huge assumption about transgender people, as if transgender people are the problem with, sexual perversion or assaulting people. And really, I mean, where is the evidence for that? Where is the evidence that transgender people are out to harm somebody in a bathroom? Please think about this, Christians, if this is something that, you're concerned about. Just, it doesn't matter if transgender people are allowed to use your bathroom. If your kid goes into the bathroom alone, they're just as in danger, going into a child that's a boy going into the boys' bathroom. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to single out transgender people and make this an issue. Now,
I have a confession actually. When I'm when no one's around and there's a male and female bathroom, like a single usage, I sometimes would prefer to use the female bathroom
because it's cleaner.
It's cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually why I transitioned. I'm just going to confess right now. It was because I was tired of those gross men. So I'm like, that's it. I'm done. Give me the hormones.
Well, see, and then I'll make my confession, because I like to go into the men's bathroom because there's no line. There's always a line outside the women's bathroom, if you notice. But the men's bathroom never has a line.
Yeah, that's true too. There's it's a double-edged sword.
Advantages and disadvantages to both, I suppose.
Yeah.
I had a question. Just something. This is really not controversial in a certain sense, maybe, or it's not meant to be. But so, in the resurrection, let's say, from the dead, in the Christian theology of the resurrection, you could ask the question, like, someone might say, well, obviously God's going to restore somebody to their original sex or whatever. But at the same time, how do you operate when you have someone say, I think everybody would want to say somebody who has like some sort of equality of being male and being female, like, does God want them to be unisex? And then most children at birth in the condition, they choose a sex for them, which may or may not be the better decision according to the way the person develops for whatever reason. Not making any claims here. It's like, is God restore that person to that state of affairs in the resurrection? Or was God going to like honor the thing that they decided to go with? Or what if they went with one sex and it turns out that it would have been better to have gone the other direction at birth, when they kind of choose a sex for them and then try to operate under that premise? Like, what is the key factor? It seems like if someone has both sex reasons to kind of go either way, let's say at birth, and if that's the right way to operate, and let's say they do go with the a certain way and the person lives their life under that sex and it works out for them well or better than it would have the other way, is God not going to honor that decision in the resurrection? Like in what way is God going to restore that person in the resurrection, and based on what? I'm not sure exactly. It seems like if someone chooses to operate under a certain sex and it could have gone either way and it works out well for them, God's going to restore them to that sex. And then that has implications on what someone might decide in other circumstances regarding how they operate under a certain sex. So it's weird. I don't know what you guys think about that sort of thing. You get what I'm saying? Hopefully.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead,
And
Rebecca.
I mean, I have my opinion about this, but I can't, I can't guarantee that this is absolutely true. But I just think that people have an instinct about who they are. And so if, for example, Bree, it has the identity of a woman, even if all of her body parts don't exactly fit with that, right? But God knows who Bree is, and Bree knows who Bree is. So I think God is going to, let Bree be who she really is in the restoration. But that's not to say that I don't know what our resurrected bodies are going to be like. Okay. Are we even going to have reproductive systems?
I've heard they're going to be like 12 foot tall, carbon steel. I've actually heard people say that you're just going to be like, they'll say they'll be like a pre-flood condition, right? So you'll be tall and fit and at your prime. I can't wait.
But I mean, I do think that, your gender goes way beyond the biological expression of your body, right? So I don't think that, like, even if we don't have the same biology in our resurrected bodies, doesn't mean that we will be genderless. So I don't know.
There's indication that there's you can argue that the Bible, Matthew 22, Jesus says there's no reproduction in the eternal estate. Okay. And I have my opinions about that, but most people think there's no reproduction in the eternal estate. But on the other hand, biological sex has been distorted historically in Christianity as though sex were bad. I think that's wrong in the many different ways that comes to be fleshed out in theology and just life or whatever historically. But we were created to have sex and have reproductive abilities before the fall. So it's a pre-fall thing that God gave us. So it seems like a restoration includes what was originally made, but at the same time, there's indication that there's no need for reproduction in the eternal estate. So it's an interesting kind of conundrum. But yeah, gender could go much more beyond just the ability of reproduction. So it's an interesting, it's not real clear, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And then Antonio says, well, will God restore them to how you see yourself or how he sees you? What I'm saying is maybe there's no difference, because, that assumes that how you see yourself is not how God sees you. And so I don't think that's true. But I mean, I don't know, of course.
Yeah, this is so interesting because it's like the whole, like, you could even look at this as like how Calvinists talk about, it's real easy for them to say, you're born a certain way or whatever, but it's not quite that clear, is it? Like, and it kind of strikes at the heart of like maybe some of the tension between the homosexual community and the non-binary transgender community, not to disparage one over the other, just to say how, nature and nurture and like, God's predestination and soul building or development, and what is good for you and what is bad for you, and how that develops and what God's intention is. These are difficult questions.
Yes. I just had to say this comment. As Lewis says, you'll all be smooth up there like Barbie dolls. Hey, you'll be there with us too, BS.
Half of you anyway. which half? I'm just kidding.
So, Antonio is bringing up this point that's true for both with sin. Well, he's several times made the reference to sin, and I want to ask again, in what way can you connect being transgender with sin? Like, what about being transgender would be sinful? Okay, and I feel like I've already addressed some of the reasons that people have said, and it feels like it's quite easy to respond to these things. You know, you have the people who are saying, well, because God created male and female, and so, you know, if you're born a certain way, then you try to change, you're going against God's creation. Well, we know God didn't just, you know, there's not just strict male and female, because there are people who have a variety of circumstances where they're not just male or female. So the biological reality does not bear out this binary of male and female today, whether that is God's intention or just what happened in the world. It doesn't matter. This is not sinful that, you know, then you'd be assuming that somebody is sinful for being born with a, you know, certain body parts. But anyway, so that doesn't really work. Where is the sin? Like, there's like something, and then you have the bearing false witness objection. Okay, you're bearing false witness about who you are. Actually, being transgender, what if you are actually telling the truth about yourself? Hey, you know, this is who I really am. So you're not bearing false witness. You're actually telling the truth about yourself. When you are stating your identity, even if it doesn't quite match up with your biology, but still, again, that's it. For Christians who say we need to go strictly by the biology, well, then what makes a person? Are you saying it's their body? That's what defines who they are? You know, I'm not saying anything against the body. And there's a book, one of the most kind of makes the strongest case against this would be the book Love Thy Body by Nancy Pearcey. And she really talks about how Christians have gone away from like an embodied experience, like understanding the body as something good that God created that we should be happy with. I agree with that. We should be happy with the body that, you know, we are embodied. That's a good thing. But when the body is, there's an issue between the body and your soul, there's no reason to strictly prioritize the body over what you feel in your soul. And that's so, you know, and it just, I gave the example of conjoined twins. If they're born that way, we don't say, well, that's the way God intended them to be. He wanted them to be stuck together for life. If we can separate them, we do, because we're helping their body come in alignment what's actually good and prosperous.
But thank you for letting me speak my piece while I was here.
Oh, yes, of course, Bree. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.